Friday nights during the fall. Six-man fans gather to watch a sermon of grit and determination be delivered by 6 men, 10 minutes at a time, 4 quarters a night. Here you'll find the quarterback, is also the linebacker, and the kicker, where iron sharpens iron, where hard work pays off, and where 6 are won. Now for your host of 6 is 1, Coach Goldman.
Welcome to 6 is 1. To this episode, we have Coach Dagerath with us from the San Antonio Feast. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing real well. And thank you for taking the time this afternoon to speak with us. For those that are not aware, Coach Dagerath has been a longtime coach with the San Antonio Feast, which is a homeschool program out of San Antonio, and he's been the football coach there. I met Coach a few years back because we were in the same league, and he's been a kind of a mentor and a great coach, and seen him at several coaching conferences. And so glad to have you here today, Coach. And let's start off, if you don't mind, by kind of helping me and everybody fill us in a little bit on how you got into football. Did you play when you were growing up? Where did you grow up, and then kind of how did you transition into this crazy title of coach?
Yeah, absolutely, Coach Goldman. I'd be happy to do that, and thank you for having me on the show. I grew up in a small town called Lamarck, Texas, which is near Galveston, and played 11-man football as a youngster, and even into my high school days. And I was okay, but I wasn't great, and had a good time doing it, though. I really enjoyed my teammates and just hanging around with the guys and the competition of it. So when I finished up high school, I kind of figured that was it for me. And then had my family, and I have 4 boys. And when we moved to San Antonio in 2009, they were, my oldest were 13 years old. They were going to get to know some of the kids in town and things like that. FEAST, which is the Family Educators Alliance of South Texas, local homeschooling group here in San Antonio, has they do many things for the homeschool community. One of them is sports, and one of the sports that they do is football. And we were moving back to Texas from Tennessee, and I was excited about my boys getting a chance to play football in the state of Texas. And as you know, it's much of a ritual and a rite for a teenage boy to do that. So they went out for a spring camp, and I was probably overly protective there, and I was really concerned about who they were going to be on the field with, what were the guys like, what were the coaches like, and kind of who was going to be speaking into the lives of my young sons. And so ended up just being an assistant coach and really enjoying the time I spent out there on the field with the coaches and the program that Feast had. And it was started by Rush Cohn, and he was there with Don Miller, and they were doing high school. I was doing middle school as an assistant, and as things would go, I became the head coach of the middle school program the second year. And then my third year, I became the head coach of the high school program and the commissioner for the program. And I just kind of did that for about 8 years. So 10 years total coaching, 2 at the middle school level, and then 8 at high school.
Yeah, that's a good long stint. And we might point out you doubled your salary every year, right?
I did. I got raises every year. It was 0 on 0.
I often tell everybody that that welcome to come out and join our program. We'll double your salary every year. And I had one coach push back and said, "I'm pushing for triple." I said, "You're driving a hard bargain, but I guess we can see about that."
Yeah, that's right. I think our crowns and our riches are in heaven.
Yes. So you get into this crazy sport of 6-man football. And one of the things that makes it interesting is you played that athletic director role. You played the coach in the middle school, and I share a little bit of that with you. That's how I kind of moved up. I youth, middle school, helped out on some varsity programs elsewhere, and then but finally fell into it the same way. But what part or what element of the of coaching do you like? I mean, did you take on the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator? Where did you find your fit, and what do you like the most about coaching when it comes to the X's and O's side of it?
Well, what I found is over 10 years, you kind of find that you adjust to whatever the season needs, and it's actually one of the lessons that we teach our players is each team is different, and you got to figure out how you're going to best contribute to the team this year. And I did the same thing. So there were some years that I was a head coach as well as offensive coordinator. There were some years I was head coach as well as a defensive coordinator, and then there were some where I was head coach as well as a special teams coach. And I was very fortunate. So the gentleman that started our program, Rush Cone, has kind of been in and out of our program helping out coaching over the last 15 years. And whenever he was around and he was able to coach, I took full advantage of that. And sometimes he ran our offense, sometimes he ran our defense, and then also had another great individual, Robert Benitez, who is now the head coach at Feast, and he has also run the offense for us a few years as well. So I just kind of try to fit in wherever I can, and when God gives us good people, I try to let them help out as much as they can, and then I adjust to where we maybe needed some more help.
Yeah, I think Rush needs to retire in this, more like in the Austin area, probably sort of a little bit east. I really would like to have that guy it's always there to fill in on either side and be as efficient as he is. I'm gonna have to see about working on his retirement plan and where he needs to be relocating to.
He's a great guy, and he's really a player's coach. The players absolutely love him for his unique personality and way of coaching.
I'll never forget that I think he's the very first time. I didn't know who he was, but middle school, I'm playing Nios. They have this quirky little play, and I'm in a man defense, and the whole play only works if you're in man. If you're not in man, it just goes nowhere. And
that's Wayne Aldridge.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely. And so, I'm a first year 6-man coach, and I just figure, well, it's just easier to tell the guys, go cover that guy, right? And we'll do this. And the kid, how hard could it possibly be, right? with 12 and 13-year-olds. But this is like I guess the bowl series game, and that play just rips us for 3 or 4 touchdowns that day, and we lose, and I get out coached, and Rush, and never to pass up an opportunity, he comes over and he said, that's an annoying little play, isn't it? He said it's hard to defense that one in a man, and it was kind of afterwards, and I took it in stride and thought, what, he was so right about that. What was I thinking? How many times was I going to get beat over the head? Well, obviously at least 4. I was willing to give up a full 24 points without, flinching one muscle to do something else. Yep. So anyway, live and learn. But coaches always. We'd love. Like I say, when we play y'all and Wilco and some of these other programs, I was kid with Cacciatore and the rest. I said, you guys block out the sun with your coaching staffs and your players on the other side. We got to turn on the lights earlier out at our field simply because of the number of people you bring. But talking about you have 4 boys and playing football. Tell me a little bit, or you share with me what you. Coaching your son and the difficulties that can present, or the opportunities. Just what is it like, and how did you handle coaching your boys?
Well, I tell you, it's really a bittersweet situation. I loved coaching, loved being out there with my kids and doing that. The fact of the matter is, it's very hard to balance being a coach and a dad at the same time. And in most situations, I think you kind of end up overcompensating on the coach side because you got, 10, 15 kids that are looking and needing a coach. And it's just tough, you're engaged as a coach, and you have to do that throughout the game, which means you're going to give up some dad moments, quite frankly. And I didn't coach last year, and I got to enjoy all of the dad moments. And as a coach, you realize, you look back and, if your son was involved in a good play, whether it was a tackle or maybe even a touchdown or a good run or something like that, you celebrate it, but you celebrate it as a coach more than a dad. And, one of the stories that I remember that reminds me the most of that is when my number 3 son, Jeffrey, was a senior. We were in Seguin playing Lifegate. Great team that year. And I think we were on our first possession, third play, and he broke free and was running for the end zone, got about to the 2 and was trying to get in, and the guy caught him from behind and landed on his ankle. That was kind of lagging behind and crushed it. And at the time, you're hoping it's just a sprained ankle. He gets up and really can't put any weight on it. We help him off the field. And, in that moment, I'm torn between being a dad and wanting to stay with him and see how he's doing and what's going on, and then getting right back to the sideline as a coach saying, hey, we got like 4 or 3 and 3/4 of a game to go here. So it's tough. It's tough when you're both a dad and a coach. Sometimes your sons, they know so much about the game because you guys spend time talking about it and watching film and those types of things. And then sometimes they probably know more than they ought to. And some of the struggles that go on as a coach when you're dealing with fans and parents and referees and that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, you got some shared memories with your kids, and you really can't replace that. So,
yeah, I agree. I'm living that right now, Coach. We're having my oldest about to graduate, and my second son, just entering into, and it was difficult. There were getting to be that coach when you're the high school, and on the junior high, I got to at least be a little more of those dad moments. But even then, you're still the varsity coach, so you got to do that with you can't be full dad, which I understand, because when it comes to basketball season or volleyball, I'm horrible, right? Because I'm full dad. What's worse about volleyball is I know zero about the sport, but I act like I know everything. So I'm full normal parent, right? I get to tell people, this is kind of nice. You get to act like you know something and you really don't. And yay, So, but I'm always good to stay out of in the good graces of the coach, right? I have that respect there, and just going, but it is different. It's definitely a different dichotomy, without a doubt. So, you're out a few years. What are you missing? What are you not? What's from the coaching part of the gig?
Well, I'll tell you, I really miss just the day-to-day fellowship with the kids and the coaches, and having something to prepare for, and kind of the butterflies that you get in your stomach every Friday, because you just don't know how the team's going to show up and how the other team's going to show up. So I definitely miss that. Some of the things I don't miss is, having a second job, quite frankly, because I work full-time for HEB and really love the company and the job I do. And, when you're a head coach of a 6-man football team, that's a job all of its own.
Oh, yeah.
So, I know I was putting in 30 hours a week just trying to do a coaching role between practices and prep and game film and travel and everything like that. So it's nice having a little bit to come back, but I certainly miss being on the field with those guys.
Well, I understand, and I think most coaches out there do as well. And one of the things I would ask you is, if you had to go back in, and I think we could be in agreement, alignment here, it wouldn't be as the head coach, because we all know nobody wants that job. I mean, really, I'll never forget when Billy came up to me and said, I'm gonna go, dig oil wells, or not oil wells, water wells. Pardon me, not oil. can go dig water wells for people in Central America and give them running water, and all I need from you is to take over as head coach. Wow. You just go be self-interested that way, okay?
Yep.
I realize you're going to go, give people water and the ability to, just have running water literally in life in exchange for handing this over, and then all those intricacies. So I say, outside of being the head coach, would you be the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator? Where would you find yourself if you had to pick a coordinator that you were going to be?
I probably would not go with either of those. I'd probably go with the special teams coordinator. One of the aspects, it's actually a forgotten aspect of most six-man teams. And my experience is, a lot of games are won or lost by that extra point. If you could make it with the kick or block it, or if you're prepared to punt or not prepared to punt. There's 6 phases to the special teams part of the game, and it's really difficult. And a lot of times you can catch teams that have not been preparing for it and do some things that really help give you an advantage. So I love offense. I love defense. I think probably defense is actually the toughest out of all of them in six-man, but I really enjoy all the different facets of special teams.
Yeah, I agree with you on the special teams. That's always, especially the kick being 2 and being able to get that off. But I would tell you that here at Tribe we only have 5 phases, or I guess 4 phases of special teams, because we don't punt. It's not allowed. It's actually communist. We just, although, and I may have shared this with you in the past, that I do have. One time I called a punt, and literally I think it's the one time in the last 3 or 4 years, and the kid that was back there had it wasn't even on, it's on his armband. He had whited it out and put something else in there. He had no idea. We had to call a timeout to actually, he's like, this guy's never gonna punt, so why would I've got used. I've never asked what's the 17-year-old need to do with that? But like, did he write down a phone number for somebody? I mean, I just don't know what he used on that armband. That's probably the bigger question is, what did you put there? It's not on anybody else's armband.
Great.
So anyway, so give me a little bit. You actually mentioned one thing, and I'd like to drill down on that. And that was faith earlier, and explain to me, how faith is an element in the program, and when you operate your program, and how that play, what the aspect of that within the Feast program.
Well, I tell you, it was really one of the mainstays for me when I came to Feast to realize it was a place where we could express our faith and live out our faith. And then it was something that I wanted to continue. And every time we had a practice, we would have 10 minutes of a timeout, or halftime is what we called it. And we would just sit down and kind of cool out or chill out for a little bit, and I would use those 10 minutes to talk about a character trait and relate that to a verse in the Bible. We'd talk about a personal story that goes with that, and really try to invest in those kids and help them understand that growing their character and becoming a God-fearing, godly man is really the most important thing. And I'd tell them, these are the 10 most important minutes of the entire practice are right here, guys. So make sure I had good eye contact with them. We'd have different people come up and speak to them during that time. And, it's something that's really important to me personally, to my family, to our program. And one of the great things about it is I'd travel around the state to different six-man programs. I'd see it was important to them too. And, one of the teams that would always put it on us really good would be Richland Springs, and we'd travel up there and have a great time playing them, and they would teach us what six-man football really was about, and we were always better for it and later in the season. But, after that game, we usually made it to halftime. After that game, Coach Burkhart would gather the kids around, and, of course, we'd have heavy hearts because we really thought we were going to show up a lot better than we did. But Coach Burkhart would always just really emphasize the good news, the gospel, to all of those players on the field, and just how that was really the most important thing. And it wasn't championship rings, it wasn't the score. It was just really living a life dedicated to Christ. And I really appreciate him for that, and speaking that into the life of our boys, and many other coaches did the same thing, during my 10 years.
That's great. And you bring up a really great point about six-man, at least the coaching fraternity. I've been, part of other types of fraternal organizations, so to speak, and I was an official at one time, and so there's your group of officials, and I had done some public school coaching, but there's nothing like six-man in the sense that you have public school, like Coach Burkhart there at Richland Springs Public School. You have charter schools, you have private schools. We schedule and play each other. There's no real. We're willing to do that. We're very open about helping each other get better, and then that strong faith element, like you were witnessing, is prevalent across those different programs, private, public, charter. Circling up at the end, praying. I just think that's something these young men will take with them, and it is something special about six-man football. Mentioning Coach Burkhart in Richland Springs, that's always impressed me about your program. You will put reach teams on your schedule, and I think that's admirable that you. And talk a little bit about what's the philosophy behind going out there and scheduling programs that are tough. They're going to be tough. I mean, quality programs. They're like I think Coach Burkhart had more state titles than he did losses at his stay in Richland Springs, or somebody told me that. I was like, that's just incredible.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I wish I could take credit for the first time we scheduled them. The fact of the matter is, the first year as head coach, the previous head coach, Don Miller, came up and told me congratulations on being the new head coach, and told me that I had something really to look forward to, that he had scheduled Richland Springs for us. And and I just kind of smiled, and I said, well, thanks, Coach. And the more I got to know about what he was actually saying was I had no idea what I was in for. And it's great for our program. It really is. I mean, those guys at Richland Springs know how to play the game of six-man football. And I remember the first time we went up there, it's typically a 7:30 kickoff, and it's about a 3-4 hour drive from San Antonio to get up there. And we always have a place that we try to go eat as a team afterwards. So in San Saba, there's Dairy Queen. And so I called them up in the week, and I told them who we were, what we were doing, and that, we'd probably be in there around 10 o'clock, after the game's over, and come grab a bite to eat, et cetera. And they just kind of politely said, okay, Coach, we'll see you then. Okay, 10 o'clock, right? And I said, maybe 9:30, but, 10 o'clock. So, well, the way it actually went was we showed up, we did the warm-ups, we saw their kicker was doing kickoffs through the goalpost as if it was a field goal. Their quarterback was throwing the ball 80 yards down the field and hitting the guy in stride, and that was in the warm-ups. So we got on the field, and they taught us what six-man football was in no other way that a team had ever done. And I'd say we got 45, but the reality is I think we got 65 that night. And we kicked off at 7:30. I looked down at my watch. The game was over. It was 8:15. And I called over to San Saba Dairy Queen. I told them, hey, I think we're going to be a little bit earlier at 10 o'clock. And they kind of laughed. And I said, this happens before, hasn't it? But yeah, I tell you, Richland Springs, great program. Jerry Burkhart, I learned so much from him just on fundamentals and teaching and learning the game of six-man football, and just seeing how their team does things. And it was always a good measurement for our guys. Our guys would get up for that game, and we'd walk away bruised and hit up and beat up pretty good, but we also kind of knew how we measured at that point, and we played better the rest of the season because of that game.
Yeah, it's I just have to share with you, Coach, that as a in the junior high, my second game was against Feast, and my predecessor told me, look, I've got this schedule set out for you, great. And I knew nothing about Feast except for I didn't know that stood for ferocious. I know you have some other name for it. These guys show up, and by the way, I thought we needed ID checks. I still do to this day on that team that showed up. I said, I'm not dealing from the same deck here. I don't. He's got whole cards. I need that deck. But
that's called the South Texas breakfast tacos. That's what that is.
Yeah, I was just like, wow. So, we learned a whole lot that game. Managed to just hold on. Fortunately for us, that game was played in a torrential downpour or a muddy field. The downpour came, so that was the only saving. God was helping us that day. We would have been 45, but for the fact that those guys kept tackling themselves. So I said, that's how I know there's a God, and He is gracious, and He was helping us that night.
Yeah. I think we've all been in those games on both sides of them.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely. So the one of final questions here about is your coaching mentors. Who are mentors for you within the sport? I mean, you mentioned Burkhart and mentioned learning a lot from him. Are there some others that you would point to and say, yeah, those are people that have helped me along the way?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I'd say first and foremost, it's actually my father-in-law, Bill Moore, and he coached football for probably 20 years in the high school level across the state of Texas, and he's been a big supporter of mine and just kind of helping me keep my head screwed on straight and keeping some perspective on things. So love that guy. And then also Rush Cohn, I mentioned him. He taught me so much there at Feast, did a great job of setting the program up for success with fundamentals, and I tried to just get a little bit better at that each year. And then also Tim Shipman with Fredericksburg Heritage has been a mentor for me and taught me so much on and off the field, and love that guy. And then Coach Randy Allen with Highland Park actually taught me so much. He's probably one of the winningest coaches in the state of Texas, high school football, and he took time to talk to me about offense, and even more so just kind of showed me how they do things up there and how they really emphasize character. And I made sure that was something that was important to us, every year that I was on the field. And then, you mentioned Jerry Burkhart, great guy as well, and went to many of his coaching clinics and learned a lot from that.
Yeah, likewise. I've been several myself. My wife's, don't buy so many CDs. You can find it on the internet. It's like, baby, you can't find this on the internet, and I'm buying the CD.
Right. That's right.
You can find a lot on the internet, but you type in the word six-man, it's not a whole lot coming up when it comes to six-man and coaching. That's for sure.
That is exactly right. You learned the hard way.
Yeah. Google hadn't gotten there yet. So anyway, as we wrap up before we get into the film portion of this, it would share with us and I ask this of all coaches, your most memorable officiating call. And I have to give you, I was an official for many years, and so I've seen this from both sides. And, but I always, as a young official and as an official, I've had my moments I would love to take back. And I know we're all human and fallible, and that of course, we know as head coaches that they never make a bad call, and that we're only out there to advise them, as much as we can, in ensuring that they are making all these incredibly great calls. But share me a moment for yourself that you can kind of remember.
Well, the most memorable would actually I'd have to go back to. I think it was 2013. We went up to play Richland Springs, and it's kind of a typical situation. We get up there, and the whole town of Richland Springs has come out. They get a good following, and the team captains are going out there to the center of the field, and the referees are out there, and they got the team captains, and the referees, and this is what my team captain told me later. They said, "Listen, Coach, we're going to be just a few minutes delayed because one of the referees showed up and all he had on was boots, and he has to go back and get his tennis shoes." I said, "Okay, well, that hadn't happened before, but we are at Richland Springs. I understand." Okay. And they said, and we got ready to do the coin toss, and the referee's looking in his pocket trying to figure out where the coin is. And he's like, "I don't have a coin. Has anybody got a coin?" And he looks at one of his other referees, and the ref says, "Well, I don't have a coin, but I do have a skull can here." And we'll just flip the skull can, and the silver is the top, and we'll call that heads, and the brown part is the bottom, and we'll call that tails. So we'll just flip the skull can here. So please, you call it in the air.
Yeah, I would hope quickly, being a homeschool kid, you did the equation. The metal's heavier. Let's go with the lid.
Yeah, I think my team captains were stunned. They probably didn't know what to do.
Yeah. And afterwards it'd be, "Come on, you got to be able to adjust. Think on your feet." That's why. What's your
that
physics?
was an omen for the night.
Yeah, you didn't get your physics out and figure that one out real quick. Anyway, oh, that's a good story. That's really good. So, for those of you that are listening with us on the podcast, this is where we'll part ways, because it's very difficult for us to go through the film in an audio only format. We would ask that you subscribe to the channel below, subscribe on SoundCloud. Also, just join us on YouTube. We're on YouTube as well at SIXASONE.com, or just search for SIXASONE. And so we will pause here for a second and then pick up with the video. Welcome back. For those of you that are joining the second part of our episode here with Coach Dagerath, we're going to step through some film. Now, sometimes I ask coaches for film in advance, and they kind of know what they're providing me. I would not extend that courtesy to Coach Dagerath at all whatsoever. So he's going to have to go with what I brought up. He's a likable guy, and he's wondering, what am I about to see? So what we did find was, this is from his 2016 team. I believe you stepped down, Coach, 2017. This was a team that made it all the way to the state finals, and a great team, but it's clips throughout the season. I was really happy to see that coaches, when they put this together, there is a section for defense. I get very frustrated as a kind of a defensive guy that it's always offense, and the plays they choose, Coach, never seem to look good for the defense. They always seem to pick out those ones that go for touchdowns, and
we love defense at Feast.
All right, Coach. So what we have here is a dive play, and it's going to be this. I guess it's slot back here out of an unbalance is going to come across the formation, which I think is pretty unique, because he's not going to be blocking down on the end from this side. He's actually going to reach across, and it's going to give your Q enough time to pitching the ball to the spread back to turn around and find the blocker. And so if we see here, I thought what was interesting too is that center, he's going out straight for that corner. So it's a design play to get to the outside. We're going to wall off that corner. Here was the back coming across. And then as we roll it forward, again, the cue, just enough time to, if I can get through, to get a hand on him and off to the races we go. And, is that standard for y'all to always bring somebody across? It seemed like that when I was looking at film, that even out of a whether it's a diamond tight or it's always going to be that cue pitches and then blocks the same way he's pretty much pitching, so that he doesn't have to turn his head too much. Is that the intent there?
Yeah, we do try to make sure that our quarterback is following his momentum, if you will, for his block, because he has enough on his mind already. So if we're going to come back and do a cross block with somebody, we're going to do it with one of our up backs. because it's a nice pivot move for him just to come across and block that backside in this case. And the quarterback can just follow his momentum and get that nose guard coming across.
Yeah, I think that's, and I don't know if I picked it up from you or one of the other coaches along the way or programs, but we were doing it the other way. And when I saw that, I went, that makes so much more sense because, I'm trying to
make it easy on the kids.
Yeah, I mean, it just, a real athletic kid can do it, but even then, a real athletic kid could make it a lot easier on the, but one that wasn't athletic, it's a round peg into a square hole, and it wasn't working.
Yep.
See if we can roll forward here outside. Okay. And this is one of those things that you got a three-man front defensively. You got just your typical diamond. Question I had here it was whether the center. And how do you treat the center? Do you ask the center to get a hand on a body to try to block up the field? Some people will literally, after the guy snaps the ball, drop him back to try to catch one of these up backs. Usually because the spread back's then coming forward and you can catch him coming toward the spread back. And in this case, you're sending him down the field, and we'll roll it forward and then let you comment on, because now we have three, and we literally have three on three. Well, two blockers, three defenders. That you would say, most defensive coaches say, "Oh, okay, we've got the advantage here, at least all things being considered." And this particular play, it makes the highlight reel because defensive end doesn't do his job. He does worse than his job. He falls down on the job. Nothing worse than sitting down on the job.
Yep.
But so what is the thought process there on what you do with the center on that play?
Yeah, so what we try to do just week in and week out is put the kids in a position where they can be successful. And it looks to me like in this situation, what we did was we told the center, go on down to the next level and find your block, because the three guys that are at the line of scrimmage are probably either through their gaps or their athletic ability, they're just too quick for that center to try to pivot and block. So what we know is every play we want to get 5 blocks on 5 defenders, and then we're going to have one-on-one with our guy with the ball versus the defender that's not getting blocked. And you either choose that at the second level or the first level. And in this play, we chose to do it at the first level, and that's why we sent the center down to the second level to block the safety.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I always tell players too, and we have to. I'm sure time and time again, I always say, it's crazy, but the team we're going to play this week is going to take the ball and they're going to throw it back to the fastest guy on the team. I don't know why they do it, but every week they do it. So just between you and me out here at practice, let's have some respect for this guy, okay? Let's not run up the field like he's the slowest guy on the team.
Right, that's right.
But the humor gets lost on him. I don't know. I get that kind of blank stare sometimes. I'm just like, really, guys, come on. We gotta dial it back on our approach. Because I think another thing I pointed out as I was kind of rolling that forward, and this is something your program does a great job. It's downfield blocking. This play is great. This guy actually is blocking 2 people. Because he adjusts the angle. This gentleman does not, this play defender here does not have the opportunity to take the angle he really wants to take, simply because you're locked up here with a great downfield block, and that now that the angle's not there, but for that block down the field, either that guy comes off and makes a play, or the angle's there for the other player.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the things we teach our receivers. We stay on them and film and practice is you got to get that downfield block, and that was one of our seniors, Colin, and he did a really good job. He kind of developed a great reputation as a downfield blocker, and just having that attitude that was one of the ways that he really helped our team, play better because he was getting that downfield block.
Yeah, I think, Coach, that for me, we're gonna even out of the spread. We're running the ball at the pass is kind of a second option the vast majority of the time for us, and we're expecting our receivers. So I tell them you're gonna block a lot more times this season than you will be catching a pass, and between two people, if I have to choose between a guy, and I always be honest with men, hey, if I got two guys and both of them can catch relatively the same, maybe one guy's a little bit better, but the other one's a much better blocker that's not as good with his hands, he's starting. Because we're going to be
exactly.
I mean, it's as simple as that. You can come back and say, "Well, I catch the ball." Yeah, I agree with you. You're right. You do. Too bad we don't do that on every play.
Right.
And if we did, I'd probably be open to that line of. But I'm not.
Yep.
So
exactly.
Now this one here, you're in a jaybird, and we're seeing more of this. What we call a shotgun jaybird. Explain. I've seen a lot of film where you'll be under center, where you have the traditional jaybird. Now you're bringing the cue back. Give me a thought process on why y'all decided, the difference between under center versus dropping that cue back.
Yeah, sure. So this is actually one of those things I learned from Coach Burkhardt at Richland Springs, and they had such great athletes. They would open up their gaps and they would spread the field on us. And what I've found over time is that bringing your quarterback back about 4 yards and then your tailback and maybe another 3 or 4, it just allows them to see the field differently. It allows them to see some angles differently, to see what the defense is doing, gives just a little bit more time. So if we're going to pass out of this formation, we have a couple of more steps for the patterns to develop and the tailback or the quarterback, either one, to see what's happening and throw the ball. So we don't do it all the time, and we'll even adjust within a game. Sometimes we're under center. Sometimes we put the quarterback into the shotgun, and we're just trying to, again, put the kids in a place where they can be effective. And sometimes you got a quarterback who's younger, and he just needs a little bit more time to see what's happening. So we just go back and forth, really and truly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, from a defensive perspective, we always look at this formation and say diamond. Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah.
We just go, here's one up back, here's another up back, there's the spread back. 3 guys are going out off the line. I mean, what the Jaybird does, at least from the way I look at it, when you have him under center, he can hand to the guard, he can hand to the J-back, he can hand to the tackle. I mean, there's just so many options, quick hitting options that you have to respect that. You have to respect that run, that quick hit.
Right.
And so in an athletic line, if you have those kinds of players that can make athletic plays from that line, then it taxes you. And typically then those passes will open up simply because the defense is having to respect the run. Here, we're going to most the way we look at it is we're going to peel our ears back and come, because we're not going to worry about the quick the shuttles. If you want to shuttle out of this, you're a braver man than we have a shuttle. Right. We have a shuttle play, and we don't try to call it too often, because even every time we run it in practice, we're like, it'll get there one of these days.
That's right. That's right. It's a dangerous call.
Yeah. That's good work there. Let's see what we get over here. We're going to move on up to. All right. Okay. Yeah. This is really an interesting one. So out of your film, I saw sometimes you bring the wide receiver, and if we're in a diamond set, sometimes you bring that wide receiver down the line, and you crack. And sometimes you don't. What's the thought process? Why you do? Why you don't? What are you looking for? Is there a particular defense? Do you see a 3-man front? Yeah, we're cracking. If we're in a 2-2-2, or we see something that's a little more sit back and react, we'll send them down the field. Kind of what makes that decision for y'all?
Yeah, so we can call that play with or without the crack, and we will do it throughout the game both ways, because we want that defensive end to respect the fact that we may do that crackback block there. I'll tell you, the crackback block is always one that makes me really nervous when I'm on defense, because sometimes a kid gets out there and he wants to put the big hit on there, and we've always taught our guys to be careful when you're doing that, and I guess you would see it in the film. We basically tell them to square up and let the defender come to you. And we're not trying to put somebody in the hospital or on the sideline, even though I've been at the effect of that. And that's not a good place when you got to go out there and see a kid laying on the ground like that. But we just tell them square up, keep your head on the ball side of what's happening.
Yeah, here it is, Coach. Yeah, it's a good thing you brought it up because here's the play. Here's the gentleman right here trying to crack, and we, and that, I like this. I like the fact that he's playing, he's mirroring, he's looking, he gets flat-footed. We all hate when they sink both feet in the ground. I'm like, really? It's the whole. We only spend. I'm sure you do it all week. Both feet moving all the time. But get out of the game and watch them just sink both like concrete, right? Like you're making. Right. It's like, we're not throwing you in the river here. Come on.
We just tell our guys square up and then just mirror that guy and just get in his way, and you're not trying to ear hole him or cleat him or anything like that. You're just trying to keep him out of the play. And at the end of the game, we want everybody to go home in good shape, and we don't want any cheap hits or anything like that. And we just tell our guys that sometimes we're going to do that crack back, and sometimes we don't. So,
all right, Coach. Well, I had to ask because I was looking through this film. A lot of people call it trips. I don't. You have a unique formation here. You have two. We call it inside outside receiver slot back, but the slot back, seems to be here. I think in the past you've told me this was unbalanced, but what's the thought process here, and where are these guys supposed to be lined up, and kind of why this unique unbalanced?
Yeah, so this is just what we'd call unbalanced right. So we're going to be heavy to the right side of this. We, just looking at this clip, it looks like we're not lined up exactly the way we teach them to do it, but typically that guy that is on the, I guess, the 38 to that guy right there.
He would be right behind.
He should be stacked.
Yeah,
he should be stacked right behind him, not one step inside. And it looks like maybe our quarterback's a little bit deep and the tailback's a little bit deeper than we want. But we just call it overbalanced right, and we're trying to figure out if the defense is going to overbalance itself with us, or if they're just going to line up the way they did before, quite frankly. Because if they line up and they don't respect our overbalance to the right, then we're just going to sweep right on them because we got angles.
Yeah.
If they want to shift over, then we will probably go the opposite direction.
And you'll make that read at in the queue makes that read as an audible, or does that usually come in from the sideline?
So we'll have a play called from the sideline, but again, depending on the quarterback and the maturity of the team, they always have the ability to check out of that.
Right.
But they a lot of times it seems like every other year we have a quarterback who really does understand the game and knows how to do an audible out of that call, even if it's not the right call.
Right. Okay, so now enough of that offensive stuff. I'm going to have to start getting better at offense, because it's an offensive sport. I get it, but the defense here, this is out of a spread, and I saw this quite a bit in your is this man where you will bring up this guy here is going to sort of, but he's the whole time he has the cue, and everybody else is manning up along the way. This defender happens to fall down, but fortunately gets back up at the end of this play and makes a good play. What's the thought process on man? That's, you don't see it as often. It's it's rare, at least because most teams don't tend to get into that. So what?
Yeah, it kind of depends. I mean, a lot of times when we go up against a team, if we feel like we have the better athletes, we will go man because we feel like we can handle it. If we're going up against other teams, then a lot of times we'll go zone, and we, may send, the nose guard in, and we're just trying to get the ball out of the hands of their spread back, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We're trying to put our best athlete on their best athlete and mirror, and hopefully, give him enough room that he decides he wants to give the ball up. And, we're going to try to keep him from running and force him to pass, because a lot of times when they pass the ball, it actually is an advantage to the defense.
I would agree with you there, Coach. It's as much as wide open as the offenses are, the passing is, and you're limited, right? It's not like some of the bigger schools where you have lots of opportunities and different numbers of men that can jump up, young men that can jump up and throw the ball. Often you might have none.
Right.
I've usually said that I'm lucky if I can get one that can shot put it, right? So that's.
That's right.
Yeah, we've had some. Well, what we get, and I know my baseball brethren out there. I said, don't send me another baseball player that plays quarterback. It's not a baseball. We don't throw it the same way. No. They're really good at. They can hit that short route, but anything a little further, when they're throwing it on a rope, that bigger ball seems to drop a lot faster.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So here you have a 4-2 defense, and this seems to be a kind of standard against the tight. So walk us through a little bit why the choice of the 4-2, what you're looking to get out of that, and what are maybe some of your reads pre-game that you're looking for when you get in, because I see that you're in a 4-2 and then sometimes you back off into what I would say a 3-1-2, dropping one of the inside guys into a sort of a middle. What's the thought process there, Coach?
Yeah, so if I remember this game in this clip, I think what we're trying to do is just be really aggressive. We don't think that they have much of a passing game. If we're scouting them and we see that they're just not going to throw the ball much out of that formation, then we're going to bring as much pressure as we can, even a 5-1 from time to time, and just try to get to the ball before they can get rid of it. And then, I think in this next clip, it looks like it's 3rd down and 15, and we're expecting maybe of a pass, so we're going to go ahead and drop back and play a little bit better, zone back there. And it looks like my middle linebacker is a little bit too deep on this one.
Yeah, try to undo.
But in general, we have a too deep zone, and our guys are watching the man coming into their zone.
Right. So this guy here, I'm going to undo this because I don't have the. So this guy here really should be up a little bit more, is what you're saying here.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that he's covering for the dump pass. These two guys have their ears back and are coming after the cue.
That's right.
And that this guy here picked up, the other one coming off the line and took it. Has that.
That's right. He felt him kind of releasing upfield, so his job was just to stay with him.
Yeah, and this guy, if I were coaching, what I would say is I would call him Superman in practice. I'd say, okay, I got it, but the other team has kryptonite. Okay, so we're going to work off the basis that I recognize you're Superman and you can cover all this back area and all this front area, but right now, just need you to play a little more human. Let's get human today.
Exactly. Exactly. So trust your teammates.
Yeah, and I've been told I have to change my superheroes. I grew up with the Batman. I got to go Avenger style. I've been told I need to get more into. So I guess I'll have to adapt. That's part of coaching. You got to adapt a little bit with even your superheroes. So let's see if we can get into where the next one I have here, Coach. Let's see what I have coming up. Yeah, and this is a 2-3-1. And I didn't pull too many of these out. I just, I guess we have 1st down, 15, it's sort of red zone. I consider red zone 25 in kind of thing for a 6-man. And, I'm guessing the thought process here is, the goal line's really here. There it is. We're not going to worry about deep throws to the post. We're gonna try to cover this middle area here. Is that kind of the thought there when you fall into that?
Yeah. So a lot of times, if we run a 2-3-1 like this, what we've seen on the scouting film is that they don't send 2 receivers deep. That they may send 1, but not 2. and that their tendency is either to run or to try to hit it in the flats. So we're going to try to take 2 to the ball, leave 3 across the line of scrimmage, ready for the flats, and we just tell our safety, if the quarterback is going to throw the ball wherever he turns his shoulders, you go with your shoulders, and you go that, and just give up the other half of the field. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's good, right? Just when you see him make his move, then you make yours. And by then, your defense should be there. I mean, it should be at causing him problems. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, if you got the right people in place.
Yeah, he shouldn't have time to make 2 reads out of that thing. And this was, again, we mentioned you had that 4-2, but then you fall back into this. So you're bringing a guy back. So here's a guy that's sitting. You're coming with 3.
That's exactly right.
One guy's sitting, waiting. He should really be. He's following Q. He might be splitting the difference between Q and this guy coming out of the backfield.
Right.
That's when we would probably say to him, "Hey, I know but we've got another guy there, and 2 other guys coming after him. It's not your responsibility until he hits the line of scrimmage, because really that guy turns around right there and throws it. Bang, we're out of position, right? So
yep.
It's always defensively. We call them. I don't know about you. We just call them 6-man play. Yeah, you just look around and go, okay.
That's right.
That was the perfect defense. There was nothing wrong with that. It's just, wow, okay. Okay, that's just a 6-man play. And and we've had, whether we've done it to other people or people have done it, I've had people say, is that a design play? Oh, yeah. We run that thing in practice all the time.
Draw the defense and then find the open guy.
Yeah. So that's thanks for taking the time to go through the film with us, Coach. Truly appreciate it. As a coach, I like to sometimes hear what other people have and take away tidbits and try to apply those. I thought one of the things that you said earlier when we were having the non-film portion I drew from this conversation, and I really appreciate, was at the middle of practice putting that at a time where you have that devotion or that kind of halftime, because we have halftimes in games. We have and letting I'm going to adopt that, because I think that's a really good way, instead of doing it right at the end of practice when everybody is dog tired and thinking about whatever it is they want to think about at the end. So that really is a good word.
Great. Well, I hope that works out for you. I know for us, it's a great. The kids look forward. The coaches look forward to just a break about halfway through and getting hydrated again and cooling off, and then you kind of catch your breath and go out there for the second half of practice and try to make it better than the first half. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Coach, for your time. And for those of you that were joining us, always subscribe. If you're watching, this will be subscribe in the YouTube there below, and you'll be notified of the upcoming episodes. Also, you can be notified by going to SIXASONE.com and entering your email address, and we'll be sure to reach out to you. If you do happen to know of a coach, an AD, somebody that might be interesting for us to a 6-man fan, just we're welcome and open to suggestions. You could do that again at SIXASONE.com. Reach out to us that way. We would appreciate it. Coach Dagerath, thank you again. God bless you, sir, and all the best in the upcoming season for your son as he finishes out his senior year. And look forward to seeing you, if not in the summer, in the fall.
All right. Hey, good luck to you guys, too, and thanks for all that you do, Coach Coleman.
All right. Take care. God bless.